Huh? What? Oh The Sage exam is today. Where do I start? The gauge? Let's see here. The Addersgal gauge holds up to 3 stacks, and you restore a stack every 15 seconds. And you can even restore 1 stack through Tomato, which can be used every 90 seconds. Addersgal stacks can be used on Duracell, Carachel, Exachel, and Torachel, all being oGCDs, which means off the global cooldowns, so these skills listed as abilities. Each of these also restores 7% MP, so it's probably not a good idea to waste stacks by sitting on them, and better to use them even if it means overhealing to keep my MP up. But let's see what each individual ability does. But before that, a message from our sponsor. Have you ever thought of shield healing but feel too overwhelmed to try Scholar? Maybe the concept of having to move but also casting DPS and healing spells scares you. If both apply, then you're in luck, because with the purchase of the Endwalker expansion and reaching level 70 as any job, you can try the all-new unimproved Sage job. Starting from Limsa Lamensa, make your way to the Charlean Maiden and complete the quest Sage's Path. Free instant casts? Check. Freedom of movement? Check. Isn't that the same thing? Quality of life over Scholar? Check. But Scholar is still good in its own right. Try Sage today. Anyways, where were we? Oh yes, Addersgal Abilities. Duracell, fucking Duracell, whatever, is a single target heal with a cure potency of 600. Good for spot healing, dumbass DPS who take unnecessary damage, or to top off the tank, I guess. Carachel is an AoE, area of effect, that gives each party member within a 30-arm radius a 10% damage reduction buff and regen with a cure potency of 100 for each tick. Ticks are 3-second intervals, both of which last 15 seconds, so 500 cure potency in total, I think. Either way, sounds like a good ability to be used just before I raid wide. Wait, if I use this, I won't have to shield the raid wide, right? Exachel is an AoE heal with a 15-yarn radius and 400 cure potency. With a 15-yarn radius, positioning is key to hitting everyone and praying you don't have one of those idiot range to stand too far away for no reason. Either way, this must be good for healing after a raid wide to top everyone off. Torachel is a single target heal with a cure potency of 700, the additional effect of reducing the target's damage taken by 10% for 15 seconds. This effect does not stack with Carachel. Sounds pretty good on tanks for tank busters or when they're getting ass blasted by trash in dungeons, and for stupid DPS who don't know how to avoid damage. What? Revision class? I guess that might help. Take a seat, everyone. Now, who remembers what their spells do? We'll start with the basics. We call these GCDs, which means global cooldowns. For single target, we have Diagnosis, a single target heal with a cure potency of 450. Before using Diagnosis, we should be using Eucrasia, which will augment Diagnosis into Eucrasian Diagnosis. An instant cast heal with a cure potency of 300 and will shield the target with a barrier which nullifies damage equaling 180% of the HP restored. Additionally, if the spell crits the target, it will grant an extra shield, essentially doubling the barrier's potency. It's never not a bad idea to use this on the tank before they pull mobs or a boss, or when someone is in dire need of personal shielding, for example a tank not having any mitigation for a tank buster, or a recently resurrected DPS who needs a shield for a raid wide. For AoE we have Prognosis. This heals self and nearby party members within 15 yards for 300 cure potency. Just like with Diagnosis, we'll be using Eucrasia with this and turning it into Eucrasian Prognosis, an instant cast heal with a cure potency of 100 and will shield self and all nearby party members with a barrier nullifying damage equal to 320% of the HP restored. Good for raid wides if mitigation is lacking or purely for safety reasons. Both Eucrasia Diagnosis and Prognosis last 30 seconds and cannot stack with your fellow Sages or Scholars shields. Now class, can anyone tell me the meaning behind the words Eucrasia, Diagnosis and Prognosis? Well, if no one is willing to volunteer, then I guess I can explain. It's so sad Moonbreeder died of phlegma.
Where the hell is Moonbreeder?
Phlegma balls. Oh, fuck. He's dead? Oh god, not this again. I'm so sorry. I got it. I'll cast Cardion on you, and this will grant you the effect of Cardion. And every DPS spell I use will heal you for 170 key potency. Oh god, here they come. Well, it's time to do some damage, I guess. Dosis. With this spell, I'll deal 330 unexpected damage to a single target. And if I combine Eucresia with Dosis, this will apply a dot with the potency of 75 over 30 seconds. I guess I should keep this up on 1 to 2 targets, drop it when there is 3 or more. Speaking of multiple targets, I use Dyscrasia, which will deal 170 unaspected damage and a 5 Yarm AoE around me, which is a gain on 2 over Dosis. Before we move on, let me shield you with a Eucresian Diagnosis. And if the shield breaks from either Eucresia Diagnosis or Prognosis, I'll gain a stack of Addersgal, which I'd better use. Toxical. This allows me to cast and move at the same time, dealing 330 unexpected damage to target and all nearby enemies in a 5 Yarm radius. Damage neutral on single target and a gain on 2. Oh, you're hurt. Let me cast Numa. The spell deals 330 unexpected damage to target and 40% less for all remaining enemies in a straight line with a radius of 25 Yarms, and heals self and party members within a 20 Yarm radius for 600 key potency. Damage neutral on single target and a gain on 2. And finally, it's time for my most powerful spell yet. On a 40-second cooldown, the spell will deal 600 unexpected damage for the first enemy and 50% less for all remaining targets in a 5 Yarm radius and has a range of 6 Yarms. So it requires me to be close. Its name? Phlegma These Nuts. Phlegma These Nuts.
What the f are you talking about?
Oh god, did you hear all that?
Yes, I did.
Nope, 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 nope. Nothing like being as far away as possible from society. I have everything I could need right here. Hot chicks, cool drinks, and oh, it's you. Why are you here? We need to study for the Sage exam. Oh god. Well, luckily I brought my notes just here. Let's see. What about Egg Oro? I resurrect. If anybody is stupid enough to die, this will bring them back, albeit in a weakened state. It costs 2,400 MP and has a pretty lengthy cast time. Oh, fortunately, we have Swift Cast, which makes our next spell instant on a 60-second cooldown. Swift Cast can be used for movement too, but we would be a sorry excuse of a Sage if we had to use Swift on movement with all our already existing movement tools. Still, it happens to the best of us, right? I really need to remember to Sortoria my Cardia on the tank. Salt and Sotaria, they don't even sound alike. Okay, whatever. Sortaria grants 4 stacks of Sortaria, so for the next 4 attacks, the healing from the Cardia effect will be increased by 70%, and this happens to be on a 90-second cooldown. I can see this being good on the tank during high-intensity damage, or maybe swapping Cardia to a foolish DPS and using Sortaria to quickly heal them, because they don't understand the meaning of avoidable damage. Hey, check this out. Why is so much fun tied to a 45-second cooldown? Still, I like to use this when I'm feeling extra lazy. Icarus can be used on an ally or an enemy, and it simply rushes you to their location. And who am I to deny extra mobility at no cost? Did I ever tell you about Zoe? Who is she? No, Zoe the ability. On a 90-second cooldown, Zoe increases the healing of your next spell by 50%. Good to pair with Numa for a big burst heal or Eurekason Prognosis for huge shields. Anyways, I need a drink. How about a can of Pepsis? Do you mean you've heard that one before? Ugh, you're no fun. Either way, Pepsis removes your shields from self and nearby party members in a radius of 15 yalms, and restores HP based on the type of shield. 450 cure potency of Eureka Diagnosis and 350 for Prognosis. Very niche, but I can imagine a few uses for this in solo healing situations because your other healer is useless and dead on the floor. And your party is low on HP, so you need to quickly heal, but also have a need for shields for a raid wide. Well, you can Eurekason Prognosis, Pepsis, and then reapply the Eurekason Prognosis shields. If you're a master of server manipulation, you filth, you can also Pepsis as soon as damage hits you. This will keep the shields for the damage, but also gain the heal effect of Pepsis. Or be like me and see everyone dodging the Pepsis effect. So, do you like your Pepsis, Physis, or still? No? Really? Come on, that one was kind of funny. Physis is on a 60-second cooldown and gives self and nearby party members within a 30 yalm radius a 130 cure potency regen, which lasts 15 seconds, with an extra effect that increases HP recovered by 10% from healing actions for 10 seconds. This applies to all your spells and abilities, as well as other players. I guess this must work really well in tandem with our other kit, if we were to say use Physis and then Carachel for stronger regens, or Numa, or even Eurekason Prognosis. Oh, have I told you about my current crisis? Get it? Crisis? Tough crowd. Crassus is a single target oGCD on a 60-second cooldown that increases target's HP recovered by 20% from healing actions for 10 seconds. Similar to the effect of Physis, but stronger, and only on a single target. Good for the tank or a squishy to briefly increase their healing received. Hey man. No, Heimer. Shut up. Heimer is on a 120-second cooldown and gives self or targeted party member 5 stacks of Heimination, which shields damage equivalent to a heal of 300 cure potency for each stack. This effect lasts 15 seconds, and for each stack remaining, a heal of 150 cure potency is applied to the target. Ideal on a tank for a multi-hit tank buster, I think. And we also get an AoE version called Panheimer. Just like Heimer, this is on a 120-second cooldown and functions identically, albeit slightly weaker as it is an AoE. It has a 30 arm radius, and each stack is equivalent to a 200 cure potency heal, and leftover stacks heal for 100 cure potency. I imagine this to be really good on raid wides, especially those with multiple hits or with bleed effects. There's one more AoE oGCD we get in the form of Holos. Holos has a range of 30 arms and is on a 120-second cooldown, restores self and nearby party members' HP for 300 cure potency, and shields an equal amount to the HP restored. In addition, Holos also reduces damage taken by 10% for 20 seconds. Wow. Holos is quite the packed tool. Healing, shielding, and mitigation all in one. I'd imagine it to be quite handy to be used just before raid wides, or maybe after if there's an imminent raid wide just after the raid wide. That way you can heal the initial raid wide and then shield and mitigate the following one if it's in the next 20 seconds. God, my genius scares me sometimes. Ouch. I guess we should make a move on, right? That exam isn't going to take itself. Well, while we're walking, did I talk about roll actions? I mentioned Swiftcast, but are you sure I didn't mention the rest? Are you sure cast about that? Surecast is on a 120-second cooldown and lasts 6 seconds. During the effect, spells cannot be interrupted by damage and you'll become immune to knockback and drawing effects. Good for those encounters where the boss uses a knockback and interrupts your cast, causing you to lose damage. So if you want to be sure not to lose any casts, use Surecast. You know, as healers, we're in charge of keeping everyone alive, right? But the specifications of that are quite vague. For some, this could just mean keeping everyone's HP above 0. For others, this could mean taking control of another's very positioning. For those truly chaotic enough, Rescue serves this purpose well. On a 120-second cooldown, Rescue pulls the target to you. Such power could be used for good or ill. Hey, so have you ever wanted to put someone to sleep? Temporarily, of course. And maybe you're like me and just too fun and I could never bore you to sleep, surely. Well, for this we have Repose, which will put a target to sleep for 30 seconds. If the target takes damage during this effect, they will wake up. A bit like if you had cold water poured over your face while you were sleeping. Either way, Repose's purpose is very niche. Bosses will always be immune, but I can imagine it being useful in more solo-focused content, like deep dungeons for instance. Speaking of sleeping, have you ever been able to lucid dream on command? No? me neither. But luckily as healers, we can. Lucid Dreaming is on a 60-second cooldown, lasts 21 seconds, and gradually restores MP. I like to use this around 7 to 8k MP. That way I won't overcap my MP, but I'll keep it at a generally healthy level. I'll learn one last thing. Asuna. This cleanses a single debuff that can be cleansed, which is indicated by a white bar either below or above the debuff. I can't remember, man. I don't see these cleansable debuffs too often, but when they do show up, you'll definitely want to be ready to cleanse them. Well, we're here. Let's see what we have. Healing from 70 to 90. Huh. At level 70, we're missing a lot of our kit. Carousel doesn't regen either, so, well, like always, we should make sure Cardia is on the tank. Then Zoe Eureka-san diagnoses the tank before pulling, and while the tank is pulling, we should spend our time just putting on Eureka-san Dosis on as many targets as we can until the tank has grouped up the pack. Then we should begin DPSing and applying buffs to keep the tank alive and our DPS up. Start with Dyscrasia until the pack is nicely together, then use our 2 Phlegmas and any Toxicon stacks we have. In between DPSing, we should be using our oGCD Heals. I like to give the tank a Physis, Carachel, and Sotoria to start off with. Once Carachel has expired, a Torachel and Heimer should keep the tank up for the remainder of the pull. But the pull shouldn't really last longer than that anyway. For 80 to 90, not much changes, but we have most of our kit by this level, and it's the same deal as from 70, we just have so much more. We can rotate between Heimer and Panheimer for each pull, use Holos as extra mitigation and shielding, Crassus for extra healing on the tank, and Numa for a burst heal and AoE damage. As for raid healing, well, I'm not your goddamn teacher, and this isn't a guide on healing specifically, but I guess I can make a few pointers. Something important to keep in mind as a barrier healer is you are kind of carrying the healing. Pure healers are just your supportive little bitches. It's never a bad idea to Eureka-san Prognosis pre-pull, maybe even use the Zoe if you won't need it in the next 90 seconds. Shielding raid-wise isn't necessarily a bad thing either, but you want to minimize it as much as possible and rather use other mitigations like Carachel, Holos, Panheimer, and relying on DPS to know they have mitigation buttons too. Also, the amount of tanks that don't use reprisals on raid-wides. Motherfuckers, it's on a 60-second cooldown. Why are you sitting on it, you dumb fucks? Anyways, if your team is incompetent or you messed up and won't have a cooldown for a raid-wide, it's not a bad idea to opt into using a Eureka-san Prognosis for safety. Besides, it gives you Toxicon stacks too, and that's never a bad thing. Also, a good rule of thumb is to maximize your uses of oGCD Heals as much as possible, using them at every opportunity, and if you need a cooldown for a specific mechanic, and I know this sounds crazy, but experiment. Try to get a cheeky usage of your Holos before that mechanic, and if it isn't back up for that mechanic you need, well, at least you'll know. And so will your team, when they're all dead. As for DPSing, let's see here. It's a healer, so this isn't going to be very complicated. 3 seconds before the pull, we'll pop a Mind Potion. Then at around 1.5 seconds before the pull, we'll start casting Dosis. Then a Eureka-san Dosis, 2 more Dosis casts into 2 Phlegmas, and then spam Dosis. We delay the Phlegmas to catch them in raid buffs. And because Phlegma is on a 40-second cooldown, we can use 1 Phlegma anywhere in the fight for extra movement, and then reserve the next charge for the even-minute burst window. That way we'll always have 2 Phlegmas for the burst and 1 in between for movement. It's also good to keep in mind that Toxicon are DPS neutral on single target but instant cast, so if we need movement we should be saving them for that. As for what stats to aim for on gear and melding, crit is king because of course it is. Then direct hit because Square Enix hates healers and doesn't put it on our gear, making it scale exceptionally well. After that, determination, and then piety. Although piety is situational, you might like it for prog, or if you don't know how to press lucid dreaming or your Addersgal abilities. And avoid spell speed as much as you can. An F? Constant use of vulgarity, bad puns, and skipping class. Really? Well, look, if you found this helpful, then maybe consider supporting me through Patreon or YouTube membership. And, oh man, is it getting hot in here, or is that just my Patreons? Sheesh. Remember, you can be just as hot as them for £1 a month. Anyways, goodbye. Oh, and subscribe. Bye bye.